Hello everyone and welcome. I wanted to make a quick video to conclude out the week. I haven't decided whether I'm going to post this today, which is Sunday, or on Monday to start the week off hot with a new video, and that's okay. I've had our hands quite full lately and we're finally starting to get things back on line here. And yes, the grass is a little bit shaggy. It's been like 3 days since I mowed last. We had a huge rainstorm, big thunderstorm, a whole bunch of wind damage. South of us didn't hit us, so been a little bit crazy, and the lawn got mowed right before the wind. It is a little bit shaggy right now, and that's okay. I wanted to talk about belly mowers on compact tractors. There's probably a whole lot of you here in 2025 that are debating on, do I buy a tractor with a belly mower, or do I get a compact tractor and some sort of a long mowing device? And that is a very, very, very fair question, and I've been I guess I live with both, so I have a pretty good idea of what it's like to have both, so we're going to talk about it. I have compared this tractor actually to the zero turn before, but I want to talk a little bit more about the other parts of the tractor that are relevant to belly mowing. So, a little bit of background. In basically every case that I know of, the belly mower is going to be lifted and lowered by the 3-point, so there's a linkage that goes on back there. I have never had a problem with this. It's a 2006 B2630. We bought it new a long time ago, and we have never had a problem with the linkage or any of the arms or the deck, more or less. All 3 of the spindles have been replaced, and I had to fix, and I think I made a video about it. There is a feedback point right there. When this goes up and down, this adjusts and it moves that lever. That lever right there is what tells the 3-point unit, this is max up, don't go any farther. That pivot point right here has to pivot because this arm goes up and down. That froze up on me. And what happened was it bent that rod and broke it, which means that you don't have any feedback loop telling the 3-point unit where it is in its travel, and it goes haywire. It'll kind of max out the ram, and then it takes away your hydraulic pressure for other things. It's not good, and it's bad for the unit. So that had to be replaced. I recommend you take out and grease that unit. In fact, when I do the oil change here in a little bit, I'm going to give this thing a power wash and a full cleaning, and I'm going to take that apart and grease it because it is so important. I don't know about newer. I guess I should look at my tractor and see if I have a similar setup of my newer one. But that has been the one problem that this tractor has ever had, is that right there. And you're depending on your 3-link via these brackets right here to lift and lower your mower deck. So it's a little bit different, and it can provide a problem, and we're going to talk about a couple places it can provide an issue. But let's talk about, I guess, the good thing about having a compact tractor with a belly mower. So if you have many pieces of equipment to maintain, you got to keep track of all the different oil filter part numbers, all the different oils to have on hand. You got to do all that service, potentially hydraulic service to do. There's a lot more stuff to do. And if you can condense it into one unit, which is why a compact tractor, I think, is just such an incredible buy for the landowner, the homeowner. If you have any amount of land that you're planning on taking care of in terms of mulch work, garden work, perhaps food plotting, for sure food. I mean, you could easily do a whole, you could take care of 150 acres with this tractor if you weren't doing anything too crazy. Basically, the only thing you couldn't do with this is like a huge batwing mower. Obviously, you wouldn't want to run that on this, but there's small hay equipment you could run with this. It's just amazing what a compact tractor will do. And I'm getting a little bit offhand in terms of talking about belly mowing, but I just want to rave for a minute. What this tractor doesn't have is a skid steer quick adapter for the front. I have called the company that makes the conversion for this loader. This is an LA 403. It's about $1,500 to buy the pin-on converter. So all I'm going to have to do is grind off or cut off the mounts on the bucket, weld on a skid steer adapter plate, and then we'll have this thing be skid steer quick attach compatible. We could put a third function valve on. The one problem is, because this is equipped with a loader, it has a hydraulic hook up point right here, which I think is going to be the power beyond port, which is the same port that you would steal power from to run a third function. So because I am not read into how to rig that up, I haven't delved into that. But to be able to put, my tractor has a grapple and of course skid steer quick connect. Highly recommend when you buy a new tractor, just pay the money up front, have the third function installed at the dealer so you have a really good product, and get the skid steer quick attach. You're going to be able to do so much with it. Pallet forks, grapple. You could have a grapple with a pallet fork with a grapple to help you do stuff. There's just so much you can do with a skid steer quick attach and third function. It's really great. It's worth the money. So those are all things that you can do with a loader. I'm raving about potentially ground engagement work back here, dirt work, gravel driveway work, mowing, snow blowing. You can have 3-point. You could run a small stump grinder or a, you put an excavator on these things, or the backhoe. The capability of a compact tractor is just absolutely ridiculous. And with one unit, and I think 2006 money, but I think this was like 16.5 or so for the tractor and the loader, the belly mower, and my dad got a plow, and then the backhoe was an extra $9,500 or something like that. That is not today's money. They're much more expensive than that, but you could spend easily 16 grand on just a zero turn. And to get something, excluding your homeowner stuff that you get at Lowe's or Home Depot, you're looking at, the $4 or $5 grand. But to get, you might find one for $3. But like a Gravely or an Exmark or whatever, they're kind of going to start up in that 7, 8, 9 territory. It's a lot of money. Is it doing 7 or 8 or 9 grand of more work? Let's talk about that for a second, because that's specifically what I want to talk about here. We have so much capability that if you add the belly mower in here, it's well worth doing. But let's talk about the compromises. Well, I skipped over the good stuff here. Its cut quality is very good. Its 4-wheel drive capability means when in the springtime when the ground sucks, you're just going to be able to do way more with this tractor than a zero turn, period. It isn't super safe to side hill, but you can climb upgrades, and I recommend going down the steep part if you can. Try to climb the shallower part and go down the steep part with the loader on to help balance you. But you can mow a lot of scary surfaces with compact tractor. Please be super safe. If you're doing that, put your roll bar up, wear your seatbelt, and adhere to the manufacturer's recommendations on the angles. But it's amazing what one of these things will do. The cut quality is very, very good. Better than a lawn tractor in most cases. The one thing you need to think about in the springtime, or if you live in a place that has soft ground, you're going to tend to front tires make depressions in the ground that are going to feel like waves going across them. Once the ground hardens up, I've never had that problem, but that is a relevant issue that you should keep in mind. But keep in mind, you're not having to maintain a whole extra machine and a whole other thing. I just had to use this machine because my 2 rear tires were dry rotted on my only 4-year-old Gravely, and I had to replace them. And there was a lead time to doing that because I didn't notice that they're bad. It took a little bit of time. I had to do all the lawns that I normally take care of here. I have my family members up here, my dad's stuff, whatever. I taking care of other people's stuff and my own. I did all of it. It is ridiculous how much slower it is to do your lawn with one of these compared to a zero turn. This house is about 1.25 acres, and it took at least twice as long to do it with this, with the same quality of finish to make sure I didn't miss any spots. It takes a lot longer. So keep that in mind, but is a lot longer worth having another machine on your hands? I think that's something to consider. Something to consider too is R4s work pretty well in the grass. I'll tell you right now that my tractor that does not have a belly mower does not mark the grass, especially if it's summertime. Springtime, you might. The R4s actually do extremely well on the soil, on the grass. They don't tear it up very bad. R1s are obviously a different story. This has turf tires, as you can see. One of the contradictions of this tractor is turf tires with the backhoe is kind of weird because you don't have a lot of traction. If you're operating in muddy, off-camber situations, the turf tires just don't do that good. They work great on the grass. These are the original tires for the tractor. They're still in great condition. I haven't done a lot of road driving because I don't need to. I tow it if I need to go somewhere, but they still have a lot of life left in them. I mean, they're still look, almost new. The rear tires, I don't think I've ever put air in those tires. The front tires I have to air up every once in a while. It's probably the valve stem, not that worried about it. If you're using this tractor, you think you are, for garden work, property work that is finished, you've already have a graded lot and you're taking care of it, and then you're going to do your lawn, and then maybe you do some food plotting, you're good to go with turf tires. and you're good to go with a belly mower because you can remove it. It doesn't take that long if you really need to remove the belly mower. You can do a lot of things with the belly mower attached. You could easily till. You can easily run the box blade. You can easily use a driveway grader called a lamb plane. You can easily do a bunch of dirt work. If you're using your 3-point, keep in mind that your belly mower goes up and down too. So if you're engaging the ground with this is also going to be running on the ground. It has casters. It's not that big a deal, but if you're running in off or rough terrain situations, you can catch the wheels, you can catch the unit. You got to be careful doing, off-road kind of stuff with the belly mower attached. Like I said, it comes off. It's not that big a deal. Keep in mind that the geometry and not bending this stuff underneath here really matters. So if you're not working on a already graded property and you are now in a forested piece of property that you have, or you're trying to tame a wild property and turn it into a graded property, I would highly recommend, especially when stumps are involved, be extremely cautious and careful about the purchase of a unit like this that has a belly mower. It is highly likely that you're going to end up hanging up one of those important things down there that need to not be bent on something when you're working in treacherous ground like that. Now let's talk about the tires in that ground. Turf tires are much softer sidewalls, much less carcass to them. They are much easier to puncture, and moreover, because of the way, look at these tread blocks. You have easy access to puncture the carcass of this tire. There's not very much tread block to absorb a puncture. You are setting yourself up to potentially have tire problems if you're going to use this thing for hard forestry related work. If you own a piece of property that you're trying to deforest, make a pad for your barn or your house or whatever, or put a driveway in, you're doing hard work. That's a little bit of the contradiction here. You got to be super careful with turf tires, with a belly mower, when you're doing hard bucket work or hard brush mowing. Got to be super careful for punctures if you're doing heavy brush mowing in nasty conditions, especially if you're dealing with wood, sticks and whatever. They can puncture the tires when you're brush mowing. You make a really nice sharp piece with your brush mower and then you back over it the next time around. You got to be super duper careful with that. If you are dealing with a finished property that already has the grade work, doesn't have the stumps to deal with, doesn't have huge rocks and things like that, you can probably get away with having a belly mower with all that stuff. And you can just take the belly mower off if you need to do that kind of medium work that you can get away with. Be so careful about high centering the machine on a stump, on a rock, when you have all these parts down there, because when you go to put back on your unit, you might find it doesn't line up. Also, the 3-point, the PTO. There's 2 PTOs, one in the back, one in the middle. If you have a tractor with 2 PTOs, you run a much higher chance of hitting the PTO on something, damaging the splines, damaging the PTO, causing an oil leak. You can see where I'm going with that, damaging your tractor. So if you're going to do hardcore stuff, there's a reason why commercial backhoes don't have belly mowers or PTOs in the middle of them and things like that, because they you can't treat a unit like that. Forestry machines don't have anything hanging down. They're very tucked up. A lot of agriculture stuff. It's all heavy duty components that are running toward the ground because there's a chance of running over things like stumps and limbs and things like that, rocks and whatever. So be so careful when you're doing that. But you can definitely take something like this and take care of your lawn. I would, 6 to 8 acres of cut grass. You could do that with this, especially if they had long runs. You're probably looking at 3 to 4 hours, maybe a little bit more to do it with this, especially if, like I said, if you don't have a lot of trees in the way where you're doing a lot of circles and a lot of turning around and all that stuff. With 72-inch mower, you could definitely take care of 5 to 8 acres of grass pretty darn easily. Easier to deal with would be 5 and less, realistically. If you have more than that, or if you're approaching that 8, you really might want to consider the value of having the higher ground covering speed of a zero turn, especially a commercial zero turn where you're getting 8, 9, 10 mile an hour of travel speed. That's where you're going to make your money. If you have a smaller lot, the speed that this covers is faster than a garden tractor and cuts very well while doing it. It is generally faster than like an entry-level Cub Cadet or Husqvarna or whatever entry-level zero turn that you're going to buy that has, the 4 or 5 mile an hour travel speed. You're going to be able to mow in the, let's talk about one other thing. If your grass tends to get unruly, say you have a cottage that you don't go to very much, it's the way that this was originally. It was at our cottage and we weren't living there, so the grass would get a little high. this diesel setup and this mower specifically absolutely demolishes tall grass. So if you are not mowing every week, like in July when you really should probably do a cutting every week, and you're letting it get a little crazier because it's your cabin, you don't go very much, having something like this is going to far outperform both the cut quality and the speed that you can cover while doing it than even a commercial zero turn. They really get glomped up. You got to slow down a whole lot to cut tall grass with them because the decks are designed for not having 15 inches of grass go into them. So, and the diesel torque that you have here is pretty spectacular. The other thing that I noticed in using a diesel zero turn is that this machine has more PTO output to the deck than the similar horsepower. The one I used was 21 horsepower, full disclosure. So this is a 26. They should have about 21 PTO horsepower. I don't know what the PTO horsepower is at the cutting deck on a 21 horsepower diesel Kubota zero turn. I am far more impressed with the gobbling up ability of this deck with this amount of horsepower with this PTO setup than the diesel zero turn. So the subject of this video is be very careful in your purchase of this. If you need to have a separate zero turn, you can really do really well with a cheaper, more entry level, like a lower income. I have a ZTX, and I'm not by no means saying that's the best, but what it is good enough for the price. And if you pair that with, for instance, like my L3902, that's what I have. I don't have a belly mower, I don't have a mid PTO, and I don't have to worry about any of that. I have R4 tires, so I have a unit that mows, and I have a unit that works off-road and in heavier conditions. If, for instance, you weren't taking care of, like I said, if you weren't taking care of a unmanaged or unfinished piece of property, something like this that has everything all in one package, one oil change, one hydraulic change, one unit to take care of that does so much, definitely a compact tractor with a belly mower should be on your menu, especially if you can afford that little bit extra time mowing and especially if you enjoy doing it. The finished product of this is not worth a $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 Gravely Pro Turn or ZX, whatever the heck the X-Mart is, whatever. It's not worth that money. Is it worth, my ZTX I think was like $3,000. Is it worth that when I got it? Is it worth that? It could be. It could be, especially if you're doing a lot of mowing, if you live at the property where you're going to mow every single week and you're going to get the value out of that mower weekly for at least 2 months or so in Michigan, July, August. Sometimes it's late June and then July where you get to do a week every cutting. So you might do 6 cuttings in a row and then, that kind of thing. And you keep it for years, you're going to get your money out of it. If it's a place that's like your cottage, you have a second property up north or something like that, something like this would be the bee's knees for your cabin, especially if you let the grass get long. You show up there, you spend the first 5 hours you're there taming your property, making it look good again, and then you recreate for the weekend or for an extended weekend or whatever. This is going to be a bee's knees for you. So let me know obviously this is so individual person and property and use dependent. Make sure you comment down below and let me know what you're dealing with, what you're doing, and I can definitely advise you. I've run many different commercial high-end, I've run X-Marts, Kubotas, Gravely's. I haven't run a bad boy, but I've run many different high-end zero turns. I have a Gravely ZTX because it worked best for my budget and my uses, and now I have 5 seasons on it, and it's been a really nice unit. This I've had since 06, and I was using this when I would have been 12 years old when we got this, and as soon as we got it, I was mowing the lawn. My dad probably was mad at me for stealing it all the time because he probably enjoyed doing the lawn. It gave him something to do other than sitting on the desk. Gave him something to do, and of course I was the one who would jump on it before he got home and get the lawn mowed because I loved mowing the lawn. These things are so much fun to use. Highly recommend Kubota. I love Kubotas. I have no affiliation with Kubota. I just trust and love their products. I've had an easy ownership experience with both of my tractors. I have a friend with an earlier zero turn Kubota. Be very careful about those drive motors. They had a huge recall on them, starving for oil when you're on a grade. Careful with those older ones. I've heard some negative things about John Deere's entry-level zero turns. To be very careful with those in terms of them being problem-prone. I've had many friends with X-Marts and with Gravely's, and they all have very good luck. Gravely's have been showing their heads, though, with decks cracking on the Pro Turn, so be very careful with that. I had a video fixing my neighbor's, and it is still currently fixed, and he's very happy with it. My buddy's dad had one fail last year. And so that's a problem to consider, and it seems to only be on the Pro Turn, so I don't know what's going on with that. At least my ZTX has been heavily abused and well-maintained, but heavily used. And I do not have a cracked deck. I check it all the time. I don't know the reason for it other than potentially too hard of metal being fatigued. Hardness can work against you. Think about a knife. You can drop a knife and break the knife in half because it's too hard for the use that you're using it in. You need to have some softness so that it absorbs impact and doesn't shatter like glass. Hopefully I covered a lot of questions that you guys might be having. Go to your dealerships, request to test drive one, see if they have a chunk of grass. If you have a neighbor that has one, go ask to mow their lawn for them. I guarantee your neighbor's going to let you mow their lawn for them to give it a try before you buy one. Get out and try these things. Make sure they fit your height, your weight, your width, all that good stuff. Make sure that ergonomically they're comfortable. I don't care for the ones. Really quickly before the end of this video, I like having loader valve out here. First of all, I'm tall. And second of all, when they're up in here, they get in my leg way. I'm tall. I'm also wide. I don't like the loader valve here. I like it out front. So that's just something ergonomically that matters to me. I like this because I actually put my foot on top of it and I just wiggle it back and forth. Not that I don't like having two buttons, but I don't have the same problem others do because I put my foot on top of that. I don't put it to the side because this one, I can't remember the reason for why it is, but the brakes are over here on the same side as your foot. If you're trying to do close work, if you're doing close bucket work with a friend, generally hydrostatic, first of all, stops for you. I would prefer to buy one like my L3902 that has the brakes on the other side, just because you can use 2 feet and get the job done. So any questions, put them down below. Oh, and the time that you can mow on a zero turn I found to be very low. You need to fill up, 3 or 4 hours and you're pushing it. Or you're getting down to where you need to consider if you're going to do more than that, time to fill up. This thing I can cut my grass like, I don't know. I'll bet you could do 25 hours of runtime on this tank. It's absolutely ridiculous. So most compact tractors have a huge fuel tank. They get great fuel economy because they're diesels. My Kawasaki 691, love it. Very reliable, a lot of power, burns through fuel like you wouldn't believe. Take care all and have a great day.